Today we begin our study of transformation of the vital. The term vital is special to Sri Aurobindo's philosophy. In no other system do we come across the concept of the vital in the sense in which it is used here. It needs a good deal of explaining to people outside that the vital is used in the sense of prana, life force. The importance of life force, prana, has been elucidated from many points of view in the Prashna Upanishad, where it is underlined that prana, the chief prana, the mukhya prana, with its 5 divisions of subsidiary pranas, play a fundamental part in the life of every being. For us, we use vital, the term vital, in the sense of life force, particularly the range of being, our being, which is ruled by this principle of prana. We have the material body, the physical system, which is controlled by the physical principle of immobility, inertia, solidity. We have the mental range based upon the principle of mentality, which has many operations of ideation, reasoning, thinking, and so on. In between the physical system and the mental, there is a large area in ourselves which is ruled by the principle of life, prana. The chief characteristic of life is movement. If that of matter is of immobility, here it is constant movement. Life is in constant movement. And this vital, what we call the vital being, meaning thereby that part of our being which is run by the motor energy of life force, is not of one piece. We have first, beginning with the top, the vital mind. Now the vital mind is the element of mind in the vital being, in the life being. This mind element does not think, does not ideate, but it goes on planning, imagining, justifying. The vital mind justifies whatever impulse, whatever movement the vital wants to indulge in. It puts a sort of rationalization in a very cunning way and lets the vital have a free play. This vital mind, therefore, is very cunning. It every time it intervenes, tilting the scales on the side of the lower nature. Next to the vital mind, there is the emotional vital. If the vital mind can be said to have its range from the chest to the throat center, the emotional vital is in the middle of the chest, governing the formation and the activity of emotions. That is in the front. Behind is the seat of the deeper emotions touching the psychic. But today we are concerned with the study of the vital. And the emotional vital is the middle of the chest, seething with emotions of all kinds, mixed, and below this emotional vital is the central vital, whose range is from the chest downwards to the navel. It is always full of impulses, large schemes, ambitions, all revolving round the ego. The outer vital proper, what we know, what is all that we know, is in service of the ego. Desire is the motive force. Behind is the larger, truer, vital, which is described as the true warrior of the divine. When it harnesses its energies to the divine will, it is the greatest warrior and the most effective instrument of the divine will. Below the central vital is the lower vital, below the navel. And this lower vital, full of petty desires, small movements, petty jealousies, angers, frustrations, depressions, and that is what is active in most. It is only in a few that the central vital is active. But this lower vital Sri Aurobindo points out, is called lower not because of its quality, but because of its place in the hierarchy of the organization. It just happens to be lower, that's all. But if this too gets purified, if its desires are controlled, if the will in the lower vital is subjected to the rule of the higher will, then the lower vital also plays its part in the spiritual discipline. Still below the lower vital is what you may call the physical vital. Just as here we have got the vital mind, here mixed with the physical layers, it is called the physical vital. Vitality mixed with the physical layers. That is what we call the nervous being. Very obstinate, deriving this quality of the obstinacy from the physical, and sensational, deriving from the vital. This is the physical vital. In practice, however, all these are mixed up. We have spoken in terms of these 4 or 5 vitals to clarify for ourselves the different strata of the formation of the vital being. And this vital being is always driven by desire, greed, drive for fulfillment. Quality changes as we rise higher and higher. And when this desire is contradicted, is not fulfilled, there is anger, there is resentment, there is frustration, there is depression. Most of the depressions, and I am sure there is none of us who has not experienced depression at some time or other. But every depression has its seat in the vital. The vital is very quick to be elated, to fill us with a sense of joy, happiness, but it is equally ready to get depressed. And this depression is more dangerous because it is accompanied by a self-justification provided by the vital mind. Each depression justifies itself, and in the act of justification it prolongs itself. It is obstinate. When Sri Aurobindo was asked, how do you meet this obstinate depression? He replied, by being more obstinate than the depression. Well, that was his way of putting that you have to exercise your will. Don't put your will on the side of depression. And this depression can cast its shadow over the entire being. If it is particularly intense, allowed to dig itself deep, it begins to affect the physical health. And even TB, tuberculosis, has been traced for such deep depressions. Mental illnesses have also their roots in vital depression for whatever reason. The vital has been given an intensity, a drive, a power, because whatever manifestation has to take place, whether it is manifestation in ignorance or manifestation in light, knowledge, it has to be through the vital. The mind can only open the doors to knowledge, but knowledge by itself does not ensure manifestation. Knowledge by itself does not control the vital. Something more than mind, that is the will, has to be brought to bear on the activity of the vital. The best, of course, is the psychic influence. It is premature to speak of psychic action in the beginning of our yoga, but at least if by aspiration, if by closeness to those who have realized the spiritual consciousness, we are fortunate to have our psychic center awakened, then that influence does touch the vital and softens it. In a way, it civilizes the vital. But that is not enough. To change, to turn the direction of the vital energies, the action of a spiritual force from above the mind is required. And that is why, instead of fighting with the vital, trying to trace, trying to watch and sit tight upon it, it is a more rewarding way to open to the higher Shakti, to the higher force, and invoke it or expose the vital to the action of the higher consciousness. It is very difficult because the vital has so many layers. At every level there is the vital element. And if you think you have changed and conquered it in one place, at some other time, occasion, there is an eruption elsewhere. And the vital has to change. Sri Aurobindo observes that the vital is a good instrument, but a bad master. And those who are led consciously or unconsciously by the vital force are slaves of the vital. Very often people mistake vital energies for spiritual energies. The vital glow for spiritual radiance, for vital impact for spiritual contact. The vital always swells you in its expansive movement. It swells. It gives you a feeling of being mighty, powerful, able to dominate the world, those around you. That is the vital. But the spiritual always brings a sense of humility. True spiritual consciousness or experience brings with it humility, because there is always that awareness of our lack of the necessary purity and our insignificance before the immensity of the divine power and consciousness which seeks to manifest through us. But humility is a very alien character to the vital. The vital always rides over circumstances. It is more of an obstruction than the mind because of its sense of power, because of its obstinacy and constant capacity to change its forms. How do we change it? How do we transform it? For the purpose of this yoga, naturally, first comes purification. Purification of the vital involves an honest, objective self-examination. How far our movements are activated by desire, by ego. These are the twin principles, desire and ego, around which the vital revolves. Desire in itself is not bad. There is a legitimate desire and an illegitimate one. What is required for the healthy growth of the mind, the life body, and the physical is a legitimate desire. The necessary nourishment, required hours of sleep, all these are legitimate. But greed, expansion at the cost of others, these are illegitimate. And when desire, what is desire at the physical and vital level, reaches the spiritual and the psychic level, it turns into aspiration. Desire transformed is aspiration. Aspiration allowed to slide down and get attached to ego becomes a vital movement. So this is a very tricky situation where the vital element creeps in and where it is aspiration, which is the flame of Agni. We always know by the effect Vital energies, when they are spent out, when they are spent, when they are let loose, they leave a sense of exhaustion. But spiritual energies, when they are expended, they do not give a sense of exhaustion. They multiply. They exude a freshness. The energy may be the same, but the field in which it works, the instrument through which it functions, that makes the difference. That is why physical energy, vital energy, emotional energy, mental energy, spiritual energy, these have different movements. But the strongest of these, lower than the spiritual, is the vital. When the vital being is denuded of the element of desire and detached from the ego center, then the vital is ready to play its role as the natural instrument of the manifesting consciousness. So ultimately, it all comes to the same thing, whether it is the purification of the vital or the mental or the emotional. Control, self-control, constant elevation of our motives, harnessing of our energies to the higher will, denial of expression, movement, to activities that run counter to our ideal. That is the discipline, even for the transformation of the vital. A stage arrives, however, where the human effort cannot go beyond a certain line. It is there that the yoga power, with its source somewhere higher, that is summoned, and the vital is exposed to its action. If there is sincerity, if there is readiness in our central being, all the defenses of the vital crumble to pieces. And the vital takes its due place in the instrumental being. We have covered only a part of the subject, and I think we will continue when we meet next Sunday.